for all of my 20s, I had moved from place to place, and not just from place to place, I had moved from country to country. And every 6 months or so, it was honestly a lot. And people would tell me how adventurous I was and how inspired they were, when in reality, I was unhappy and I was just trying to run from something. And 2014 was when something clicked, and I realized I kept running from myself. I want to welcome you to Identity Evolution, the podcast where we explore the moments that shape who we become. I'm your host, Lorena Schuth, somatic self-concept and identity coach, and I'm here to guide you through the raw and the real and the transformative stories of reinvention. Hello, my loves. So today I'm going to share a bit of a personal story of how I used, quite a few years ago, 12 years ago now, my Jupiter return in order to reinvent myself. And first of all, I want to give a bit of a disclaimer, and I want to share that astrology is a modality that I don't usually talk about. That is for a couple different reasons. Number one, I am not an astrologer. I am not certified in astrology. Everything that I know about astrology, which admittedly is quite extensive, is based on my years of self-study. But I do not feel qualified to comment on astrology from the perspective of an astrologer, because that is not what or who I am. So that's the first disclaimer. The second thing is that I don't usually talk about astrology or a lot of modalities, to be honest, because I believe it can really box us in, and a lot of modalities are not used in the right way. They can often be used in either a fear-mongering way that is very popular with astrology, but even other modalities. I sometimes get clients who resonate with my work, who tell me, oh, I've already done X modality that you've mentioned once. And the way they've approached this is not necessarily conducive to their evolution, and it's not how I would ever teach it. So I think we can have a lot of skewed perceptions around different modalities based on what we hear online and what we've been exposed to. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's not a very good thing. And when it comes to astrology, I've seen a lot of people get really limited in their perception in what they believe is possible for them because of what their birth chart looks like or what the stars are like right now. And I've even had people tell me, oh, I can't sign the contract to join Recreate Yourself right now because Mercury is retrograde, and so I have to wait a month to do it. And I just think that's ridiculous. Like, it's okay to use astrology in a way where you kind of work with it, but if you ever use it in order to victimize yourself, or you let it hold you back or put you into a little container, a little box that prevents you from becoming who you truly want to be, then we have a bit of a problem. I'm a big believer in you can have anything you want. You can be anyone you want to be, and you truly don't have to settle. And if any modality tells you otherwise because, I don't know, your Venus is in Gemini, then fuck that, honestly, right? So anyways, just so that we have that out of the way, I would love to get an astrologer in for an interview at some point, but that would need to be someone who can talk about co-creative, identity-led astrology that is empowering. So if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, please comment your suggestion below if you can think of someone. or DM me with your suggestion on Instagram at Lorena Schuth. I would definitely love to hear. And yeah, my relationship with astrology has evolved a lot over the years as well, because I used to find it very limiting and I had to really change my relationship to it. And now I love using it. Now I use it in an empowering way in my personal life, and even with my long-term clients, with my RYS. RYS is Recreate Yourself. It's my signature coaching program. With the clients who have moved through the program already, with my alumni clients, I often use astrology too, because they already have all the bases. They've already been through a big identity shift. They know how to not let it limit them. So it feels like a safer container to approach this part of the work. But yeah, I think it's a really powerful modality. And I used to really not believe in it until I looked back at my life and I looked at things in hindsight and I saw how undeniable it was, how each significant relationship in my life had begun or ended during an eclipse, or what I'm going to be talking about today, my Jupiter return. So let's talk about what that is first. What is a Jupiter return? So Jupiter is entering Leo this year on, I believe, the 30th of June, 2026. Obviously, that will be time zone dependent. And planetary returns are basically when a planet returns to the same point in the sky it was in at the moment of your birth. So you may have heard of a Saturn return. That's probably the most popular type, because at some point everybody was speaking about it all of the time. And that happens around your 30s. My Saturn return was during COVID. And I was going through it all. I was going through a redundancy. I started my business after that, so I went through a career pivot. I went through a gut-wrenching breakup. Oh my God, it was the biggest heartbreak I've ever had, and it took me a long time to heal from that. I had got to face and heal some deep codependency patterns. I was very isolated, as I guess most people were during COVID. So there was a lot going on during my Saturn return, and it definitely changed me. But today I want to talk about Jupiter instead. And the reason I want to talk about it is because, number one, we have Jupiter shifting signs soon. And also, I don't feel like it's talked about that much. I've not heard many people talk about it. Maybe because it happens more frequently. Maybe, I don't know why, actually. I'd be curious to know why. But Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It's almost the opposite of Saturn, right? Saturn is more like a bit of a strict teacher. It's a bit more working with limitation in order to help you evolve. Whereas Jupiter is expanding is expanding everything. Wherever it happens in your chart, wherever it moves through in your chart, wherever it's placed in your chart. But the reason I want to talk about this is because of how impactful my last Jupiter return has been for me and how I'm planning on using this next one. Again, I'm not an astrologer, so I don't actually know whether that is a common experience or whether it's maybe because my natal Jupiter is in Leo, which by default is a very identity, ego-led sign. But I went through a complete reinvention, self-reinvention during my last Jupiter return. So fitting for this podcast, isn't it? Okay, so my last Jupiter return, let me talk about my experience. And I did this at the time without any knowledge of astrology, right? This was pre-everything. Pre-spiritual journey, pre-self-development, pre-self-inventory. pre-everything, but pretty close to my journey starting. In 2014, I had just finished my undergrad, my bachelor degree, and I had been traveling the world for the first half of my 20s. And I came back from China that summer, where I had lived at the time. I had lived there from 2013 to 2014. And I was just about to move to Scotland, which is where I still live. And honestly, I had no idea that I would stay here and still be here more than a decade later, but that's a totally different story. It's actually quite funny sharing these stories that I've never really talked about before, because do you know all the countries I've lived in and what I did pre-spiritual journey? I don't know, but I was definitely a different person, which really speaks to the self-reinvention, the identity shift that, people often don't know that I am a completely different person, or that I had a completely different past life in this lifetime before becoming who I am today. Honestly, you see me and you think this is just who I am and who I've always been, but this could not be further from the truth in pretty much every way. Anyways, I had a moment that year in 2014, that summer, where something just clicked in me. And I wanted to change something about my life. Hitting rock bottom can be your catalyst. And someone asked me recently, how do you even make the decision to break out of a pattern? Right? I met this girl who told me that she felt stuck in her life and that no matter what she did, she felt she kept getting caught up in the same patterns, and that there's something in her that doesn't truly believe that things can change, or that wants to keep her in what's familiar. It's a common story. It's what I see in my clients too. And that's what I had, right? You protect yourself from the life that you want, because it's safer for things to stay the way they are, even if that's not remotely how you want them to be. But what I said to her was, you need to get tired of your own bullshit. That's what I did many times in my life, and for a lot of my clients as well. Not every one of them works with me instantly when they find me. A lot of them follow me for a while. A lot of them even find excuses for why it's not the right time to join, or join Recreate Yourself, until something clicks and they go, hold on, if I don't do something different, nothing will ever change. And that's when they leap. When the pain of being where they are begins to feel bigger than the discomfort of taking a leap of faith, investing in themselves, or going on a journey, in this case in Recreate Yourself, that will be uncomfortable and confronting. So in smaller ways, that's kind of what happened during my Jupiter return in 2014. I got tired of my own bullshit. So I wouldn't say I hit rock bottom. I was more tired of repeating the same stuff again and again. And now at the time, I was young and I was very insecure. I had just spent a year in China, and although no one knew, I was very, very depressed during that time, and I felt very unlovable. I didn't feel good in my body. I didn't like myself. I hadn't taken care of myself either. But because I didn't have the awareness that I now have, and the trauma education I now have, the skills and the tools I now have, this manifested, this drive to want to change something manifested initially as me starting to change my physical body. So I started working out, I began pole dance, which I'd always wanted to pursue but felt too scared and stigmatized to try. I started taking care of what I put in my body, and that was a bit of a an identity shift on its own, because I had always had that self-perception prior to this that I am not someone who enjoys working out. I am not someone who can get better at sports. And there's a lot of reasons for why I had that self-perception, and those reasons all originate in my childhood and some experiences that I had back then. And in PE, oh my God, did anyone hate PE class? Toxic shit, man. Anyways, let me not go on a tangent here. But yeah, I prioritized changing my physical body. My mind wasn't as much of a priority yet. But obviously, I had to change my mindset a bit as well, because in order to become someone who found it normal to work out, I had to take those actions, but I also had to see myself as someone who was capable of that. I had to drop that identity of, oh, I just don't like working out. Oh, I'm just not capable of it, you know? But I'd also realized that I'd been in a pattern. I'd seen that for all of my 20s. I had moved from place to place, and not just from place to place, I had moved from country to country. And every 6 months or so, it was honestly a lot. And people would tell me how adventurous I was and how inspired they were. When in reality, I was unhappy and I was just trying to run from something. And 2014 was when something clicked, and I realized I kept running from myself. And I can't outrun myself. I'm always going to take myself with me. So once I moved to Scotland a few months later, I had already changed a lot. I had honestly changed a lot that summer already. But that continued. I reinvented myself, not by pretending or hoping to be someone else, but by being more of myself. Now, this was only the beginning. There were still a lot of flaws in my process. I had disordered eating habits come back up that I had left behind from my... Had I ever really left them behind? I don't know, honestly. Probably not. Probably actually not. But that came up strong. I went so big into a party lifestyle. Oh God. I was drinking so much. I was going out all the time. I mean, I was studying too, but it was a coping mechanism. I used sex to get love, or what, was the closest thing to love that I assumed I could get. My codependency issues came up loud. Obviously, at the time, I was absolutely unaware of them. I was unaware of all of that, what I just told you about. I tried to be someone new, and I abandoned some parts of myself in that process because I didn't know any better. So that's why this wasn't about inner healing at all, and it was more of a physical identity reinvention. It was more about how do I present myself instead of who do I channel and who do I embody. But that being said, it was a starting point, and sometimes that's all you need, right? So now I'm coming up to another Jupiter return. And since I now have awareness that I didn't have back during my last one, I've decided I'm going to do this consciously this time. So my last Jupiter return was about changing my outer identity. This one will be about my inner identity. And it's coming from a completely different place, obviously, because I'm a completely different person. It's coming from a very emotionally integrated and already embodied place. Because obviously this is what I do for work, hence identity evolution. So whereas last time it was all about reinventing who I was, this time it's about amplifying who I am. So I wanted to share with you some intentions that I have for this Jupiter return. And if you have your Jupiter return coming up too, let me know. Leave me a comment if you've also got your Jupiter in Leo. So maybe you want to join in. Obviously, we're all on different journeys, and when it comes to astrology as well, your natal chart will be very different from mine, but we can inspire each other. So share your intentions in the comments or share them with me via DM on Instagram, and feel free to take what resonates from mine as well. So my first intention is to let shifts arise naturally, but work with them consciously. And that's because during my last Jupiter return, I could not have anticipated a lot of what that brought up. So I'm going to trust my intuition on this one too, but this time I have the awareness of what is happening. And so instead of just seeing it as a coincidence, I can intentionally notice what arises and choose to work with it. My second intention is to say yes to opportunities. Jupiter is about expansion, right? Like I said earlier. And last time I did say yes to intuitive nudges and opportunities, but it was still laced with an energy of proving myself and needing external results. And this is not where I am anymore. It's not who I am anymore. And so this time it's more about seeing what opportunities present themselves and then using them and saying yes to them. My third intention is to let myself be seen. So it's about visibility, which last time was all about an outer identity shift, and this time I want it to be about owning who I already am and bringing that into the public. That also includes sharing my voice more, including controversial truths and not playing it safe. It's kind of the purpose of this podcast as well. So I'm sure this place will be a platform for this and you'll get to see it. My next intention, I think that's the fourth one now, is I want to expand in joy. I've spent years integrating trauma and embodying a really strong self-concept, which led to unthinkable, partly miraculous shifts in my reality too. And I'm just going to enjoy what I've created and really expand my joy and my pleasure. The whole purpose of transforming your self-concept, and in the method that I guide my clients through, or I guide you through if you ever join in Recreate Yourself, we work a lot with your darkest fears, with your shadows, with your trauma, in order to integrate this and get you embodied in the version of you that you want to be. But the whole point of going into the darkness is so that you can experience the flip side. Your capacity for joy can be just as limited as your capacity for discomfort, for facing your fears, for resisting what is. And you need to expand both in order to become who you want to be, in order to liberate yourself from patterns you no longer want, and in order to call in the life that you desire. So I've been in the darkness. I've done this work. I've increased my capacity for joy and pleasure. And I've come out on the other side, just like I teach my clients to do. And now I get to just fucking enjoy it. And that is really something that for many reasons I neglected up until maybe a year ago. Because I had to heal a lot. I had moved through really big trauma and heartbreak, and I had to take my time with it. And now it's time to have fun. Now it's time to have fun. And that is part of healing too. To just enjoy yourself and have fun. The final intention that I have is to expand without abandoning myself. Well, this one makes sense, right? Because as I already told you, in 2014, I shifted my identity, but I did it through willpower and discipline. And that's one way to do it. But this also led to self-abandonment. I was still codependent. I was still seeking love. I was still seeking to prove myself. I was still trying to change my outer appearance, in order to feel loved and chosen. And I had a lot of other issues as well. My relationship with food was not healthy. And that's a whole different story, but I had to heal that too. Now this Jupiter return will be about expanding as well, but this time without self-abandonment, because you don't have to betray yourself in order to become who you want to be and to live the reality you want to live. And I've kind of already stopped doing that, obviously, over the last 5 to 7 years, I would say. But I want to prioritize it even more, expanding even more, evolving even more, becoming even more of who I am and letting myself be seen in that, and not abandoning a single part of myself in the process. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. I hope you let it inspire you. And yeah, I'm Lorena. This was Identity Evolution. Please come find me on Instagram at Lorena Schuth and share your key takeaway from this episode with me. You'll also find details and resources in the show notes, plus my self-concept coaching program, Recreate Yourself, if you're feeling ready for your own identity shift. And if this episode stirred something in you, then make sure you subscribe and leave a quick review wherever you're listening. It really helps more people find these stories of self-reinvention. And then I will see you next time.